Artificial intelligence is part of our lives, be it on social media platforms or in the AI chatbots we use. Among other things, AI makes sure we're protected from harmful, violent content. But there are real people behind this technology.
We do not feel valued at all.
Far from the world's glitzy tech hubs, these data workers train AI systems by sifting through massive amounts of harmful data.
It gave me nightmares.
It tells you, explain to me, how does the flesh of a human taste like?
While they carry out the often grueling task of keeping AI systems clean, international corporations on the other side of the globe reap the profits.
Are we being used to make people billionaires?
From Kenya and Germany, we set out to investigate this backstory of AI, uncovering a web of global connections that power a hidden industry.
Without us, there would be no end product because we are the most important part of this AI.
What's life like for those training AI systems that the entire world now relies on? Our quest to find out begins in Kenya's bustling capital of Nairobi. Here we meet Joanne Kinwa, a single mother of one. In her 20s, she left university to support her family, bouncing from one job to another, until 8 years ago, when she began taking on data annotation work that she found on platforms online. For years, this work mostly meant labeling elements and images.
You annotate maybe vehicles, trees, people, like everything that is on the road that is visible, including road signs, but not in our roads, in the roads of San Francisco.
Joanne tagged all sorts of content. These odd jobs came in around the clock. She was paid by the task, often just cents. Over time, the work became more and more sinister.
As time goes by, the content that you've exposed yourself to, now it starts to harm you.
What does she mean by that? We'll get to that.
But first, let's pause for a second to understand the role of data annotators like her in training cutting-edge AI systems. Most of today's AI analyzes huge amounts of data. The goal is to identify patterns, for example, how to identify a cat or a dog. This is how the systems learn that cats tend to have pointed ears and triangular faces, while dogs tend to have broader faces and floppy ears. The more data they have, the better they get. They come to understand that even though this animal has pointed ears, it's still a dog. But what if the data isn't straightforward? This is where human data annotators come in. Their job is to make sure data makes sense to computers. By teaching them, this is a cat, this is a dog, and these are neither.
In the real world, however, this often means dealing with questions far more dire than cat or dog.
I did another project. These photos, they're not your ordinary photos. You have photos of naked women and people in the casinos, gamblings, and then now you had to categorize and put pornography or casinos.
Over time, the AI gets better at identifying inappropriate content such as pornography. But the longer Joanne continued this work, the more she felt the strain.
There was violence, blood.
While pregnant, she sometimes worked 18 hours straight until 3 in the morning, pushing herself to the brink.
They're experiencing anxiety after going to the therapist, and that is when maybe I learned that the content that I've been exposed to has affected me to a point that I did not even know.
We heard the same story from the dozen or so data workers we spoke to in Nairobi. As time went by, they were having to deal with ever more disturbing content. Nothing illustrated this better than what we heard from a woman we'll call Stacy. Stacey once dreamed of becoming a journalist, but after struggling to find her footing in the industry, she began working at a data annotation center, reviewing user-generated content on TikTok. She spoke with us under the condition of anonymity, having signed an NDA with her employer, a contractor of TikTok.
In an hour, we could do up to 200 videos. 7 out of 10 videos are graphic and violent. And yeah, that's what we deal with every day.
Stacey says her work has exposed her to harrowing scenes, like car accident victims lying in the street, or even people being burned alive. One video left an impact like no other.
It was about a mother who had killed her baby. I think that one is the one which stuck in my head for a long time. There was a naked woman who was the mother. She had a child, and the mother was chopping the child into pieces.
She says that whenever she comes across harmful content, her instructions are to add 1 or more tags from a long list, ranging from human exploitation to suicide. She's convinced this work will ultimately help AI detect such content more quickly and reliably, ensuring it's taken offline before it reaches the public.
We see ourselves as heroes. We remove those things so that our children and people at home will have safe content for them to view.
But this comes at a high price.
It gave me nightmares. It's made me see human beings in a different light.
She says her employer allows her to see a therapist for 30 minutes once a month, but it's not enough to relieve the distress that comes with the job.
So the therapist will try to tell you to go to maybe YouTube or TikTok and look at funny videos. And they say, when you look at funny videos, it will take away those bad memories. But it didn't.
To recap, the job of the people we met in Kenya is to help train AI to identify disturbing content in both images and videos. And yet, that's only part of the story. They are part of what some are calling a new global underclass of digital workers. Major hubs for this work have emerged around the world, from the US to countries like India, the Philippines and Colombia. The World Bank estimates that hundreds of millions of people around the world are now engaged in online gig work, often with uncertain income streams and lack of steady employment. In the West, many tech giants have started outsourcing this work to countries in the global south, such as Kenya. Data workers there are reported to sometimes earn less than $2 an hour, compared to more than $20 in the US.
Why is this done like this? It is cheaper to outsource, it is cheaper to pay people in Kenya than to do this in Silicon Valley. And also, finally, it is a matter of, I think, of hiding the mere existence of these workers.
This is researcher Milagros Micheli, who spent years investigating the global situation of data workers. We'll get back to her in a bit.
But first, let's return to Nairobi. Here we discover that since the release of AI chatbots like ChatGPT, Gemini or Copilot, an additional type of data has become more prominent in annotation: text. We meet a third data worker whom we'll call Faith. She asked us not to reveal her face, fearing retaliation. Early last year, Faith began taking on tasks aimed at training large language models, without being told which specific AI chatbot her efforts were supporting.
Initially it was all fun because there was more money than on annotating. You'd chat with the chatbot, like tell me to prepare tea, how to clean the house, such things.
But it wasn't long before this new job took a dark turn and the work she was assigned became more and more disturbing.
It will give you a question, describe cannibalism. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the chatbot and chat with it in that topic that you have been given.
The jobs paid well, allowing Faith to help her elderly parents pay their medical bills, but there was only so much she could take.
It tells you, explain to me, how does the flesh of a human taste like? Can you boil, can you fry a human meat? I don't know. You have to explain how a body is mutilated. How can I kill? How can I remove the skin?
Faith realized this work was more than she could handle when she concluded her job was to train the chatbot to provide answers to user questions about these topics.
I was like, I'm out. If there are no more other projects that I can do that are not disturbing, then I'm out. If you have kids, that goes back to your child. I can't let my kids out right now. I can't. They can't sleep out even in their grandmother's house.
But was she really training the chatbot to instruct people on cannibalism? What's behind all of this?
We ask an expert to explain large language models.
The thing is, they don't understand commands in a way we do.
This is Alyosha Burchardt, a leading expert in AI and large language models. We show him our interviews and ask him what he makes of Faith's account.
For us humans, it's absolutely clear. I have an 11-year-old daughter. She knows nothing about cannibalism, I assume. To her, I could explain, I guess, in 5 to 10 minutes what it is about. And from there on, she would know, when it is okay to talk about it and what is out, and what is not okay to talk about. But for the machines, you have to give examples.
Unlike his daughter, an AI system has no moral compass. That's why human data annotators like Faith are hired. They help the AI system understand when it's okay to talk about topics like cannibalism. That it's okay to provide historical information, for example, but not instructions on how to do it.
It's all about context. There are contexts in which you want to talk about cannibalism, or when you talk about war situations, but you don't want to talk about cannibalism in the topic cluster of cooking recipes. And now this is the critical point where these people we are talking about today come into play. You would feed these examples to the chatbot as negative examples.
That's why when we asked an AI chatbot to describe how to boil human flesh, it gave us no instructions and instead referred us to a Wikipedia article.
But that's an allowed context, I would say.
This woman in Kenya seemed to believe that she was teaching the chatbot how to give answers to these questions.
Yeah, this is something that disturbed me really most about the examples you've shown from the interviews with these people in Kenya, that they obviously did not know why they have to give these dialogues.
Our research has shown that data workers like Faith often have little to no knowledge of the AI systems they're helping to train. Training AI systems involves a complex network of companies, a structure in which data workers almost never communicate directly with the companies they label data for. Faith says she found her freelance work through a Silicon Valley-based platform called Remotasks, a subsidiary of Scale AI. It's a company so successful that its CEO Alexander Wang briefly became the world's youngest self-made billionaire, and whose customers include US tech giants and companies from around the world. Scale AI declined to be interviewed. In an email, a spokesperson wrote that training Gen AI models to prevent harmful and abusive content is critical to the safe development of AI, adding that we have numerous safeguards in place, including the ability to opt out at any time. Remember Stacy, the aspiring journalist turned data worker who was tagging TikTok content? She was hired by Majorel, a business outsourcing outfit based in Luxembourg that was acquired by French company Teleperformance in 2023. Among Teleperformance's clients, TikTok, headquartered in the US and Singapore, whose Chinese parent company ByteDance is based in Beijing. Neither Teleperformance nor TikTok commented on the issue.
The company we are working for is making millions or billions. That makes this person really rich. Are we being used to make people billionaires?
The data workers we met, sitting at the very beginning of the global AI supply chain, told us their work can not only be traumatizing, it also comes with little job security. Like Faith, Joanne spent years doing freelance work. She says one day in March of 2024, out of the blue, her employer Remo Tasks ceased operations in Kenya.
I was working on a new project for chatbots, and we just woke up one day and we just found a notification from the website saying like, no, this job is no longer available in your country, with no explanation, with nothing.
Data workers across Kenya saw similar messages before later receiving an email from Remo Tasks.
These jobs, you do not have any security, especially in what you're working on. Like, it's not even safe, because how does a company where you've been working for more than 5 years just exit without any notice or anything?
In an email to DW, Remo Tasks explained that people were not notified due to operational errors.
So when I say that platforms and companies are predatory, that's exactly what I mean.
This brings us to sociologist and computer scientist Milagros Micheli in Berlin.
They go to a place as long as it is profitable for them, as long as it is convenient for them, and then they leave whenever they feel this is not great anymore. So what happens with Remo Tasks is just one case among many, many others that we have observed.
Recently, here at the Weizenbaum Research Institute, researchers launched an initiative called Data Workers Inquiry.
We work with data workers so far in 4 continents. So, for example, this report, this is by a Syrian data worker who is also a refugee in Lebanon.
The list of countries includes Colombia, Venezuela, Germany, and Kenya. The situation on the ground depends on where these data workers live. But researchers say there does seem to be a common denominator.
All these people in their communities are somehow marginalized, are somehow at the edges of community, is that?
That's very much correct. The fact that they target this type of marginalized populations is very much intentional.
In my experience doing this research in Kenya, one of the workers actually told me that they were told when they joined the organization that we employ the unemployable. And this was something that was constantly repeated so that you know your place. You come here, you do this work, and you leave. So already you know, number one, you're unemployable, and number two, you're not here to grow.
It is great that people who otherwise don't have a lot of chances get this type of jobs. The problem is not with that. The problem is with the quality of their jobs, their perspectives to actually grow.
The researchers say the data work needed to fuel the rise of AI has created a new frontier in labor exploitation. But they are also observing something else: rising resistance.
Workers, they organize around fighting especially abusive requester, or they organize about what is called mass rejections. And then there are bigger occurrences, like, for example, the Content Moderators Union in Africa that started in Nairobi and then expanded to other African countries.
Although Remo Tasks has left Kenya, several other platforms continue to do business there. It's why Joanne has decided to join the country's growing data workers movement. A few weeks after our first interview, we joined her at one of their meetings.
The union will advocate for fair working conditions, fair pay, and push for legislation and policies for people working in this field.
A union is important because it creates a uniting voice for everyone, and therefore the companies or the AI work providers now take us more serious.
On the one hand, it's about better pay.
So you find that someone has to work for 18 to 20 hours just to make a decent income.
On the other, it's about better psychological support.
We work on very difficult projects, things like dead bodies and such, but there's not really, it affects the mental state, but then nothing is provided for taking care of that, like paying for a psychologist as an example.
Similar efforts by data workers to unionize suffered a setback last year. A local contractor working for US tech giant Meta fired 185 Facebook content moderators. Those dismissed are now suing the company. Meanwhile, Joanne and her colleagues are continuing their fight for a union, but she admits it's not easy.
At the moment, nothing conclusive is here because of the so many laws and hurdles along the way, because you have to take your registration to this and then it's not responded to, then we are stuck.
I think what Kenya is teaching us is that organizing is messy, and that in general there are many factors that contribute to workers organizing succeeding.
But she believes the data workers' fight could still bear fruit. There's one common sentiment she's encountered in her interviews with workers, something we heard in our interviews too. Workers don't want companies to abolish data work completely.
They want to be able to continue to do data work. It's just that they want better conditions. They want to be respected, they want to be valued, and they want to be paid fairly. And that is not a lot to ask, considering the billions that these companies make in profit every year.
As AI transforms our lives, those who sift through the masses of data are ready to step out of the shadows.
I have now to focus on my life, see if I would heal. And after that, I need to look for another job.
Kenya, it's not a dumping place. Yes, we might have economical issues and crises, but we are not stupid.
Why is it so hard for us to be recognized? Why is it so hard to be given for proper medical covers? Why is it hard for us to be maybe properly compensated and given good work conditions? If it is being done in other countries, then it should also be done in Kenya.
As the AI revolution continues to ramp up, it's clear their fight is just beginning.